Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say I'm the best at Counter-Strike games. It's one of those franchises that has the kind of learning curve that I just generally cannot be bothered to experience. Pretty much every time I try to play any of these games, I feel like I'm never learning from any of my mistakes, and thus I lose interest in the games, and move on to something else. Now I will say that I've actually sank a decent amount of time into Global Offensive, but it's nothing special to me. Global Offensive feels a bit more new guy friendly and the guns don't feel as unbalanced, and thus this latest entry has caught my attention like no other game. And by no other game, I mean Source and the original title, of course. But even with a game like Global Offensive, I simply don't see what's so good about this franchise. To me, the suspense is cool and all, but it feels generic and it's pretty clear that this just isn't a franchise for me. I suppose Valve's other IP known as Team Fortress, specifically its second installment, is somewhat to blame. Team Fortress 2 is the only competitive multiplayer game to suck an absurd amount of hours out of my life, and as of this video, I'm sitting at over 1,400 hours. Every battle in TF2 feels so semi-old school, involved and exciting. And when I move over to Counter-Strike where I'm just sitting around waiting to get my head blown off by somebody who's been practicing headshots for over 7,000 hours, I'm not exactly the most thrilled guy in the world. Basically, my main issue with these games is the fact that I just get bored with them too quickly during a match. And I always get the undying urge to run out and light up everything, while in reality I know I'll be like that one person in a fighting game keeps hitting one button and expecting results, which is something I actually do myself, so But just a few years ago, there was something I didn't expect to see that caught my eye. Counter-Strike Condition Zero from Valve and Total Rock Studios was an entry into the Counter-Strike series that included a single player. From the moment I read that, I instantly became curious. The one thing I've always been a big fan of is a good single-player FPS title, so I just had to pick this one up. Buying this game off of Steam gets you Condition Zero as well as Condition Zero deleted scenes. This video will only be talking about the standard Condition Zero because I honestly can't even be bothered to play that train wreck known as deleted scenes again. Keep in mind that this is coming from a non-Counter-Strike fan's perspective, so if something I say or do in this video makes you veterans out there cringe out of sheer disappointment, then I apologize. CSCZ is like a Capcom game from 10 plus years ago. It shows up late to the scene where there's something technologically more relevant, either present or on its way. I mean, with Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source on their way, it's pretty understandable to see why nobody really gave a hoot about Condition Zero. The game was running on Gold Source, an engine soon to be outdated. Back when everybody used to be super hung on the presentation of video games, it used to be all about how powerful a dev team can make their own game. So it does make you wonder why Valve just didn't delay and put Condition Zero on the Source engine. But we aren't here to talk about this game's abysmal release date. You came here to listen to a guy talk about a game that helps him remain in his delusion that he's actually good at Counter-Strike games. So to kick it all off, I gotta start by saying that Condition Zero separates the single player campaign into several missions referred to as Tours of Duty, and the game has no story tied into these missions whatsoever. Deleted Scenes is kind of the story mode, but again, I ain't playing that mess. The most you can really make out of the Tours of Duty is that you're a commander and you lead a team to counter a bunch of terrorists amongst various places. Yeah, I know, right? Engaging. The game allows you to pick from a bunch of counter-terrorists, each with their own weapon of choice and habits. This is a super important aspect of the game because it basically dictates how every gunfight will play out. Each character has their own personal levels of skill, bravery, and co-op. Skill sort of speaks for itself. It dictates how good of a shot the character is with their weapon. Highly skilled characters will pretty much always land their shots, while low skilled characters aim about as good as I can as Sniper in Team Fortress 2. Bravery dictates how quick they are to act in dangerous situations. Sometimes it's good to try to shoot for characters with at least mid levels of bravery, because low bravery characters constantly act as if it's their first day on the front. You can expect low bravery characters to be constantly hesitating and making rather rash decisions, and it can get really sad sometimes. Although I do understand why the game sorta always leaves the snipers at low bravery, because otherwise it would make it your average Counter-Strike match. Moving on to the last attribute, co-op or cooperation, it's another attribute that speaks for itself. Co-op is debatably the most essential factor of the three, because you're gonna need some backup in this game. Low co-op characters are just infuriating to work with, because they just run around like an enraged player on your average competitive team-based game, just looking for trouble without even the slightest consideration for the well-being of everyone else. It makes you wonder how these guys even got the job as a counter-terrorist, since the word help has apparently never ran across their mind once. I gotta say, even though it's bad news when one of your squad members die, it's somewhat hilarious to see one of them ignore your orders and then proceed to drop dead on the floor soon after. At least low co-op characters are commonly really good at what they do. Otherwise, they'd be a total waste. On a side note, I do think it's really cool that squad members following you around will walk when you walk and even move up ahead to keep you alive. After scrolling through the attributes of each character that you're allowed to choose as of that mission, all that's left is the quality of the game's AI. To be honest, it isn't exactly the most flattering of programming. Bots will occasionally forget how to walk in a straight line, magically ignore a terrorist, engage enemies head-on with low health, and worst of all, they always wait for you to defuse the bomb, even if they're closer to it than you are. Although, at least they're good at following the simple principles of the process of elimination format, as one member can inform all other members that a bomb isn't present at a certain site, and they'll all go check out the other. It's pretty much the only time low co-op members will actually listen to somebody. Oh yeah, your squad members can talk, and man do they talk a lot.
I'm gonna camp. Let's hold up here for a minute. Lead on, command. Middle. Hang on, I heard something. Well done. Need help!
Whether it's informing you that they're gonna follow your lead, wanting an update from everybody, or being startled from being caught in a bad situation, these guys have a lot on their minds. These dudes even get on the radio so you can hear them gurgling on their own blood sometimes. Clearly, these are the kind of guys that post on Facebook every 4 seconds so they can reassure everyone that they do indeed exist. Also, it disturbs me that these guys will occasionally drop some military jargon, yet at the same time break the fourth wall by mentioning things like spawns and using old gamer terms like owned. I mean, I don't know. I just imagine counter-terrorism forces being a bit classier than that. Speaking of AI, the terrorists in this game are quite a lethal bunch. There tends to be a pack of dudes traveling together with a sniper sneaking around the level somewhere, similar to your own team. Until you get pretty far into the game, these guys are pretty much always smarter than your partners, which makes certain levels a bit of a pain sometimes. They also become a lot smarter if you bump up the difficulty to hard, but I couldn't even beat this. Some levels were just far too difficult for me, especially the tight corridor-like maps where it's shoot or be shot. And apparently, hard mode is considered easy by plenty of players who actually know what they're doing in Counter-Strike games. So I'm sure all of those years of me not playing Counter-Strike properly has finally caught up to me. I mean, I think that playing hard mode could make me a lot better at Counter-Strike games, but I hope you can all understand that I actually wanted to beat this game again before the year ends. And no, I'm not even gonna bother playing this game on expert mode. The like 5 levels I cleared on hard mode are enough for me. I watched a video of Counter-Strike Source where all of the bots were turned up to expert, and it was basically Super Smash Bros. Melee featuring Allahu Akbar, and I'm sorry, but I'm good on that. But enough about my unwillingness to embrace self-improvement. How does it all come together? Honestly, I'd say that it's pretty dang good fun, albeit pretty gimmicky and uninspired. Your objectives from map to map aren't anything special. You aren't getting to the chopper or saving Private Ryan or anything. You're just a bunch of poorly voice-acted losers who need to meet certain requirements to satisfy a few challenges so you can advance on to the next map. That's it. Other than that, you're defusing bombs or saving a bunch of brain-dead hostages who somehow have leg-eye coordination worse than mine. I will say that it feels pretty cool to be playing a single-player game where you're no more stronger than your own teammates. While I love me some mindless chaos and mayhem in a video game where you're somehow the only dude that can heal wounds from eating a freaking orange, it's pretty nice to see a more realistic take on how gunfights actually are.
Wow, this game is like Dark Souls!
Although, I kinda ruined that immersion because the enemy's AI on normal provides enough leniency to the point where I can play this game like Unreal Tournament, but that's my own fault. And that's really all I can say about this game without turning this into a video about your average Counter-Strike game. You kill the enemy, complete the objective, get your money, you buy equipment, repeat. To really dive any deeper into the game would just be me ignoring the existence of other Counter-Strike games. At the end of the day, Counter-Strike Condition Zero is a simple and honestly rather pointless entry into the series that's a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. I mean, you could just play Source or Global Offensive offline and arguably have a better experience with both of them as opposed to this game. Unless you hold the Gold Source engine close to your heart or something. I mean, my amount of hours sank into this game are closer to my playtime with Prey than I'd like, but hey, at least it shows that I enjoyed the game. Condition Zero doesn't have a chance in this world of being one of the best games I've ever played. It lacks originality practically around every corner, and its sole purpose is to make scrubs like me happy. But I can't deny that I had a good time playing it anyway. If you're a Counter-Strike fan that's got nothing better to do, I suggest dropping $10 in this game and giving it a whirl. Who knows? From what I've heard, it's the definitive Counter-Strike Gold Source experience in terms of multiplayer. So this might be right down your alley, even if you completely ignore the single player. Actually, you know the real reason why I really enjoyed this game? There isn't some dude complaining about your choice of weapon every freaking round.